You are listening to the Food Means Business podcast, which features the personal stories and secret ingredients behind what it's like to abandon your day job to start a CPG food and beverage business. I'm Janaba Johnson-Jones, former marketing executive turned entrepreneur and founder of food business incubator Hudson Kitchen. Join our community of fellow food business owners and subject matter experts to learn and laugh with us as we explore a startup world that's a little more culinary and a lot less corporate these days. Noah, welcome to the Food Means Business podcast.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
So happy that you're here. So before we jump in to hear all about your company, would love to hear about your story from how you went from corporate to launching your own business.
It's a great question, and I ask myself that every single day. I'm like, it was such a nice life in corporate. What was I doing?
I don't know about you, but I had an expense account.
Oh man, I had an expense account too. Now I'm like, where's the cheapest hotel that I can stay
Exactly.
at? It's great.
Exactly.
It's a wonderful life. No, look, it happened really organically for me. I was at Sotheby's auction house. That's the corporate I was at. And it was there that I started looking at my diet a little bit more and even less so what I was eating, because I'm a pretty clean eater, but I started looking at the quote unquote better for you beverages that I was drinking. And I realized that everything was slammed with sugar. Even these things that had great functional benefits or might have the organic cert on them, they had anywhere from 16 grams to 32 grams of sugar in them. And it was slowing me down. So for me, I started looking for alternatives that I could drink, something that was flavorful, ideally had the functional benefits, but didn't have so much sugar in it. And that's how I really kind of came across hibiscus, searching for that beverage. And I started making it home and really didn't want to leave corporate. There was no intent after trying that. It wasn't like that magical moment where I tried it and I was like, oh, this is it. It was like 18 months of don't do this, but researching and finding that there might be white space. So that was really the beginning of the journey.
So why hibiscus and not something else?
Well, probably because hibiscus is what popped up for me. It could have been turmeric. It could have been ashwagandha. Who knows? But no, I mean, hibiscus is this kind of miracle ingredient. It's a miracle flower, a miracle plant. It's been around for over 1,000 years. There are over 200 different strains of it. They all range in different flavor profiles as well. But for me, it was this really beautiful, juicy, tart flavor that got me addicted to it. And that was the linchpin for me. But as I started researching the functional benefits of hibiscus, I was like, this is crazy. This is why doesn't this exist on commercial shelves?
So you had this epiphany and you're like, why doesn't this exist? So tell us, what were the steps you took to kind of get the ball rolling?
I mean, again, I really would say it was probably maybe a 6 to 18 month period where I really started looking at commercial shelves. I mean, that was start one, just being like, does this exist? Can I buy this at a supermarket? And I couldn't, aside from the tea leaves, of course. Then it was kind of understanding why this doesn't exist on commercial shelves. Has there been any predecessors? And finding a couple of brands that had tried launching in the past and didn't succeed, and understanding why they didn't succeed. What were the learnings that I could embrace from that? And then he was talking to founders. I mean, I would just cold call every beverage founder under the sun who would talk to me and be like, I'll buy you coffee. I'll buy you lunch. Please just sit down with me, and learning how to build a beverage company from there.
I think it's so important to reach out to those in the industry. I was able to do the same thing in building Hudson Kitchen, and it was really invaluable because there was a lot of lessons that they learned that I didn't.
Yeah.
It was good.
100%.
So you talked to all these founders, you've done your research, you realize that there's white space, and then how do you go about kind of formulating this product? Did you hire a recipe developer? What were your next steps?
So I hired an ops consultant. Again, talking with all those beverage founders, the number one feedback point was if you don't know what you're doing on the operations side, find someone who does, or you're going to lose a lot of money. So I found this amazing ops consultant, John Chiaroli, who'd been in beverage for 20 years. And really interestingly, the formulation just wasn't that difficult. Going back to hibiscus being a miracle ingredient, it's naturally acidic, which means that it's shelf stable from the get-go without any preservatives or additives. Where you find a lot of difficulty, a great example is RTD, ready to drink coffee, cold brew. A lot of people are like, I make great cold brew. I'm gonna take this to market. It's gonna be amazing. But making sure that that product is shelf stable means that you need to put a ton of ascorbic acid or citric acid into the product, which changes the flavor profile dramatically. I didn't have that issue. It was easy to replicate what I was already making because the acidity quotient was already there.
So now you're in like all these stores, right? So let's talk about like in the beginning, like how'd you start out? Like how many stores were you in when you started? Because
Yeah,
we look at the big success and think, oh my God, they're in a million stores. How can I get there? And it's a little bit intimidating, but honestly, most of the time it just kind of starts step by step.
absolutely. Do not go into a million doors, period. Like, by the way, if you're launching a brand and you're like, yeah, I'm just going to start in a million doors, like, and you can do that, don't do it. Like brand penetration takes way too long. You will die on shelf. I will say what we did have from the get-go, which was extremely intimidating, and we are both extremely blessed and was very challenged in the beginning because we had Whole Foods as a partner from the get-go. And that's a very big door to compete in, and they're an amazing partner. So the pressure is on to make sure that you're driving velocity from the get-go. But aside from Whole Foods, we were just really focused on finding 30 brand builder doors. And what I would define a brand builder door is like if we're talking in metrics of digital marketing, there's ASOV, which is
Mhm.
average share of voice. If you think of a beverage fridge as one web page and your average share of voice is competing with all the other brands, at Whole Foods, your average share of voice is probably like 1%. It's tiny. But if you can find a brand builder account where there are only 4 other brands on shelf with you, your average share of voice is 20%. So your brand awareness is peaking out. If you can figure out those brand builder doors that will also cycle over to Whole Foods buyers, that's a real opportunity. So that was our focus in the beginning.
Wow, that's really great, and thank you for explaining it in terms of a web page because that's where I came from. That's my background.
Awesome. Awesome. Perfect.
All right, so you're into the 30 brand builder doors. Like what
Mhm.
and so you've actually you saw some velocity there with those doors. So
Yeah.
talk about what happened next.
More of the same. Like more, I will say this business is a lot of Groundhog Day. Like, we talked about this before. I'm currently in a hotel in Miami away from my wife who is at home in New York City. And today I'm going to demo Whole Foods. Like wake up, rinse, wash, repeat. Like after you get the 30 doors, get 30 more. After you get those 30 more, can you get 100? How do you support them? How do you create brand awareness in those moments too? But it is definitely growth, pause, support, growth, pause, support, and so on and so forth.
Right. Going. That, that's great. Thank you for breaking it down in that way. Talk a lot about the first products that you launched because I know that there was the hibiscus water first,
Yeah,
and then you kind of made some extensions to that. So,
absolutely. No, we started with 2 products in the beginning. And again, on the scale of things that you would do differently, that's 100% one of them. We launched with 2 SKUs. Horrible choice. Launch with at least 3 SKUs. Like 2 SKUs, you give someone the ability to be like, one of these is fine, the other one's not. Or if they take both of them, you still only have 2 SKUs on a shelf full of a million SKUs. But one of the SKUs we launched with was lightly sweetened, um, which isn't a flavor. That doesn't exist. Like that's not like a, hey, what's your flavor? And you're like, lightly sweetened. Like, no, that's not a thing. So would not have done that. Uh, and look, we heard from the get-go, even pre-launch, people would be like, this is pretty tart. Like this is an acquired taste. And I'd be like, man, you'll figure it out. You'll see what I see. Like, you'll see tart is good. But like, listen, consumers don't lie to you. Like, if they're telling you that something's an acquired taste or interesting, you need to reformulate and you need to find a better product. So consumers were telling us, this is too tart, but if you put some bubbles in it, I think I would actually probably really like it. So we did product development and R&D really, really quickly and released our sparkling line 1 year after launching.
wow.
And that one took off in a really nice way.
So you you launched the sparkling line with the what 2 flavors? Is that right?
We launched
And
sparkling with 3. We
with
launched
three. Okay.
still with 2.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then you've since. Oh, by the way, as I was doing research, I was like, I have a flavor idea.
Hit me. I'm for it. I'm fully for it.
I like peach. Something
Yeah.
peach would be
I
really
like
great.
peach too. I don't, the interesting thing is if you look at shelves, there aren't a lot of peach flavors on there. And Again, it's one of those things where it's like consumers don't lie. If
Yeah.
there aren't peach flavors, that means that people have tried peach flavors and
So,
they died.
okay. So hear me out. So I think it's
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's regional, right? So I grew up in the South. My family's from the South, and so when we would go visit family in Mississippi, we would go get this knee-high peach soda.
Yeah.
Amazing, really sweet, but you couldn't really find it anywhere else. So all I'm
Yeah.
just saying is like, think.
Does knee-high peach soda still exist?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right. I'm looking at the nutrition panel right now. I'm looking this up. Yep. You just opened a can of worms.
It's bad. You know it's bad.
Oh man, it's a pink product. Let's see if I can get the nutrition.
But it was that thing
wow.
we only drank it in the summer because that's when we went to visit family in Mississippi, and so I loved it. And so when I drink sparkling water, sometimes I look for peach. So
This has 310 calories in it.
I haven't had it in 20 years. I'm just saying.
We got
Okay, let's talk about it.
Sugar is in this? Do you know how? I want you to guess how much sugar is in knee-high peach soda.
I don't even want to know.
Take a guess. Take a swig. I want you to guess.
In grams, like what, 30 grams, 100 grams?
In grams.
30 grams?
No.
200 grams.
Less than 200. Don't worry.
So
less than 100.
Okay, so 70 grams. I'll say that.
More than 70. It's 83 grams of sugar. It's crazy. By the way, that might actually be per serve.
It is
a 20-ounce beverage. Oh
probably is.
God. Wow.
Okay,
See,
it's been a long time.
This is a great example, though. Like you strike me as a very healthy person, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I would never. I would.
High peach soda.
I
right?
do. I would drink it. I haven't had it in a really long time. It's probably literally been 20 years. But I totally, if I saw one, I'd buy it and I would drink it.
Totally, and you would love about it. But this is like, so this is what I always find fascinating. Like consumers, of course, they do want to get off sugar. There's no question. Like we know as rational human beings that getting off sugar is the right thing. It causes heart disease. It causes brain fog. It causes obesity. Sugar is bad. Like it just is. And a lot of people think, okay, I'm going to get natural sweeteners, which I prefer to call non-nutritive sweeteners because they have zero nutritional value whatsoever. And natural sweeteners is kind of a nomenclature that sounds good, but actually doesn't tell you what it is.
Right.
And if you dive into things like stevia, aspartame, which of course just came out as a carcinogenic, monk fruit, erythritol, which has come out causing heart disease now, you not only find that these things are harmful for you, but the thing that's spoken less about, which I find fascinating, is that they are a magnitude sweeter than organic cane sugar is on your palate. Right. So the way I always kind of explain that is, do you like spicy food?
I do.
So when you first tried something spicy, though, it blew your head off, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And now you can't get enough of it, right?
Exactly.
You're just like, give me. Yeah. Sugar sweetness is the exact same thing. So it's one of those things where if you're like, I don't want sugar, I'm going to have stevia, which is around 600 times sweeter than sugar. You're still training your palate to desire sweet things. Right. So you're not able to experience the full flavor profile of things that are usually organic or real because you've been trained on this really crazy lab created formula that is, I don't want to curse. I'm going to say effing our palates, completely effing our palates. Here.
Okay, I was just giving you a flavor idea. I'm just saying.
Look, I was going off of my PR team's
I love
points. Okay, you queued me up, and I just knocked it out. I
love it. I do have to say, like I trained myself out of drinking sweet beverages. So like when I order iced tea, it's unsweetened, like all that kind of thing. It's just but you've got to like take yourself. And it takes some time for sure.
It really does.
Absolutely.
It's not easy. Like again, I experienced sugar anxiety when I was getting off sugar. Like we want something sweet to finish things. We train ourselves to think that, a meal is not done unless you have dessert. And therefore, if you skip dessert, you start freaking out because you're like, well, the meal's not done. It's a sign off point. It's a little OCD. But yeah, I find it fascinating.
Yeah. And it's really just all about habits, honestly. Like
totally
the thing. Okay, so let's go back to your business.
We should talk more about knee-high peach soda. I'm totally down. I'm fascinated about that business. I want to see when it was founded. I'm doing a deep dive after this one, man.
I just want to know that the peach flavor is coming out. So you can let me know when the peach flavor
I will let you know. 100%.
So talk to me about like the intersection between your corporate work and launching your business. I feel like for me, even I think my my corporate experience informed what I do in my business and how I run my business. I'm just kind of curious
Yeah,
how you.
I, that's a really good question. I think for me, the most important thing at Sotheby's especially was you had a company that had a lot of legacy individuals who had been there for, I don't want to say 100 years, but I wouldn't be far off. And you had kind of a new guard as well. And the question was always, how do we make sure that these people are communicating correctly?
Right.
Because we live in a Tower of Babel. There's no question about it. And we all assume that you speak my language. But the frustration happens when we realize that you don't speak my language and the inability to really reformulate and understand that person's language.
Right.
So that was the greatest learning from corporate life, which is like, how do I speak everybody's language? And how do I speak my language in a way that doesn't make people feel stupid? Because we all speak in jargon.
Right.
And jargon is, again, I will curse on this one. Jargon's bullshit. Like it's
Yeah.
just a way for you to feel superior a lot of the time. And like, you know what you're talking
Sounds
about.
good. Yeah. 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 I
Yeah.
hear you.
One of the greatest things I learned at Sotheby's was from our CEO. You know, I put together a deck for our board of directors and I was including so many acronyms in it. And I was, you know, ASOV. I was like, oh, these people are, I'm going to acronym the hell out of them. They're going to be like, this kid must know what he's talking about because I don't fucking know what he's saying. Um, and we went through the board deck and he's like, no acronyms. Like this is, you're not being a good communicator. All you're
Right.
doing is making people search for what you're trying to say. And it was such a light bulb moment, which should have been
Right.
intuitive. And I think that's the most important thing that I definitely have taken away from corporate life to apply to my life in general, which is like,
Yeah.
make sure you're just speaking everyone's language, whether that's your consumer, whether that's a grocery manager, whether that's a grocery employee, a merchandiser, a broker. Make sure you're speaking their language. And if they say something you don't understand, don't feel embarrassed to ask what they're talking about.
Right. Right. It's almost like meet people where they are.
Totally. 100%.
So speaking of communicating and communicating to people in the way that they can understand it, talk to me about your target audience, Ruby.
You know, this is always the devil's advocate answer, which is we're so early stage that like for me to say who my target audience is would be potentially me shutting doors, but that's a bullshit answer. So don't worry about it. No, look, I would love for our target audience to be everybody. Like that would be the dream. Like I
Right.
would love to go into a store wherever the hell and like people just try the product and they're like, we've been looking for this for our entire lives. Thank you.
Right. Right.
And that's not the case. What we find is that consumers that respond to us best are usually women. Interestingly, they're usually women, I would say probably millennials and above, and then children, both genders, young, like 5 and lower. And I attribute that again to kind of the palate makeup. When you're a
Right.
kid so young, you know, our Concord grape SKU has 6 grams of sugar from our organic Concord grape juice. And you can taste that flavor and it's delicious.
Yeah.
And especially if you aren't drinking Coca-Cola 24/7 or Body Armor or Prime or Gatorade or whatever, it's a really enjoyable, great, nostalgic soda, I would say.
Right.
But if you're like 15 years old and you're going to, you know, Mission Impossible, I sound so old right now, but whatever. If you're going to the local theater and you're having a big gulp of Diet Cola, um, it's true though. Like if you're regular, you don't have to worry about it. Your metabolism is through the roof. Enjoy your pizza, enjoy your soda, candy, like whatever the hell you want.
Right.
Our beverage is going to be way too tart for you. You're not going to enjoy it. And I think men in general also just don't have as good dietary habits as women do. So I do find that women, and it also might be that they're more open minded, are more willing to give Ruby a try, and usually are the purchaser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk about your branding. I mean, the packaging is beautiful. So
Thank
can
you.
you actually explain like what we're looking at here on the package?
Yeah, sure. You're looking at the Rubyverse.
Oh, and you have to explain what the Rubyverse is too. So let's do that.
The Rubyverse is a science fiction universe we created, where, you know, the Ruby knot and a number of other alien species are fighting the great vanquisher of planets known as sugar. And it was just a ridiculous fun idea for us that kind of goes back to that bridge of communication. I wanted my brand to speak to consumers the way that I, as a consumer, want to be spoken to, which probably has a little more creativity and imagination and weirdness, just like general weirdness. So originally, the glass bottle that came out was the weapon that fought the vanquisher planet known as sugar. And then as we got into the sparkling, we put the Ruby verse, the actual thing, on the can so that everyone could see where we create this weapon, which is a good weapon. It's a weapon for good.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah.
Sorry. I had a coffee. You're catching me after a coffee,
I
Janaba,
love
and I'm
it.
like, what?
I love it. I love it. So let's shift a little bit. So let's talk about you and like self-care. Like, how do you take care of yourself? Because I know like a lot of founders are just working and working and
Yeah.
working and working.
I mean, I am. I mean, the self-care thing, I'm always open about this, but like, it's still something I'm trying to figure out. I think one thing that's shifted for me in the last few weeks is like, just stop moping. It's really easy to mope and it doesn't put you in a good state of mind. It's really easy to focus on the bad when there's a lot of good going on.
Yeah.
So I really am trying to just kind of make sure I'm focused on the bigger picture instead of just like the little hellscape that might be off to the right. And I think that's been really helpful, just change of minds. Sleep is really important to me, and making sure I get 8 hours. I haven't lately, like my stress has gotten to a point where like my sleeping habits over the last few months wasn't great. So yeah, the self-care part, I'm still figuring out, man. I'm not great on that part.
Yeah. One thing I found helpful is like to make a list of all the things that you've accomplished, because if you look at it from when you started the company until now, right?
Yeah.
There's so much that you've, been able to do with launching it all, because some people don't. Launching,
Yeah.
new flavors, getting into all the, the ton of stores that you wanted to get into. It's amazing. So it's like something to be grateful for. That's kind of the way I look at it, because you're right. Like focusing on the 5% of the thing that's bad doesn't help your mood at all.
Totally.
For sure.
And you know what? I would say like on the self-care side, like it's talking to people and having those open conversations too, because those have been a lot of the conversations in the last few weeks that have totally pivoted my mindset.
Yeah.
Where people are like, dude, you're in Whole Foods. Like, do you know how many brands like go for their entire life cycle and never get into Whole Foods?
Yeah.
Like just
Yeah.
like think about that for a second. I'm like, yeah, I guess that's pretty good. Like, whatever. Like, it's like, shut up. Like, of course, like, be grateful, man. So definitely, even today, I found myself on a call being like, I don't know, like, we're just not getting that door that we're after. And then I was like, man, shut up. And I switched the mindset.
Yeah,
And on
yeah,
the
yeah,
call,
yeah,
I was like, you know what? Like, let's focus on the good. And
Yeah.
I felt myself going down that rabbit hole and like totally went up.
Yeah. All about the redirect. That's really
Totally.
good. Really good. So how has entrepreneurship changed you?
My God, it makes me very grateful for corporate. It makes me very, very, it makes me so grateful for corporate. I've gotten a tougher skin. I'll tell you that. Like
Yeah.
that's been, phew, like, even though it sounds like I'm like a mopey whiner, I will say like the things that I look back at some of the things that like I worried about at the beginning of this process. And like, it's a laugh at this point. Like
Yeah.
now something will go so totally off the rails and I'll be like, we'll figure it out. And we will. Like, that's the
Right.
cool part. There's problem solving in real time. But I think how tough my skin has gotten through this whole experience is something that I'm really grateful for.
Yeah.
And what you learn. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just nonstop learning.
True. So here at Hudson Kitchen, we have what we call a money bell that we ring when we're celebrating something. So in the lobby of the of my facility, like people will ring it like when they get their paycheck or when they bring on a new retail partner or whatever. So wondering like, what are you celebrating right
A few things on the retail side. We just launched our Fuji Apple SKU, which is our new SKU, which is doing really, really well. Fuji Apple and Berry Cherry Hibiscus are both like we took our consumer
Yes.
feedback and we knocked it out of the park, in my
Okay.
opinion. And we just launched that on Thrive Market, which is
Nice.
just such an awesome platform and really grateful for their partnership. So really, really cool and glad for that one. And on the personal side, like I'm having a baby in November, which
Oh,
is like,
congratulations.
thank you.
Amazing.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying,
Oh, you'll be
but
fine.
I think so. And I'm having a daughter, which is exactly what I
Yeah.
wanted.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
getting ready for that.
Congrats. That's amazing. Yeah. Kids it's great. It's great. Honestly.
Good. Do you have kids?
I do. I have two.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Boy, and
Boy,
girl.
girl.
Yeah, boy, girl, and they're grown. They're grown up, 20 and 17. So they're big.
Janelle, how old are you? You look
Do
like
you-
you're like 28.
Oh, thank you so much. I am 51 years old.
What's your healthcare regimen? Let's get all this. Tell me what you got going on. What do I need to be
Let's
doing that
see.
you're doing? Oh my God.
I think it's partly good genes, but then also I am like a workout person. Like I'm in the gym lifting like at least 4 times a week. So
All right, you need
yeah.
some of your regimen. Like
Okay.
you gotta help me out. Like we gotta get this going. Jesus Christ, you're 51?
Yes.
God bless you. And you drink knee-high peach soda? You're
I,
still alive after
I'm still
drinking knee-high
alive.
peach soda? Dude,
Here I am.
oh my God. Whatever you're doing, keep it up, man, and send it my
Thank
way.
you. Thank you. Thank you. So, Noah, thank you so much for being here. Let everyone know where they can find out about you and Ruby.
Absolutely. So Ruby is at Ruby for Fun on Instagram, and that's all spelled out. Ruby, RUBY, for FOR fun. We're at www.ruby.fun. And I always recommend signing up for our newsletter. We do cultural dispatches every other Sunday that are like really deep cuts. I write those myself and it's a really great outlet for me. But like, I always challenge myself to make sure that we're sending out links that you can't find anywhere else on the internet, except for that link on the internet. Anyway, but otherwise, you can find Ruby on Amazon, Fresh Direct, Thrive Market, in Whole Foods, in Earth Fare, in Erewhon, Fresh Time Market, Central Market. So please buy some Ruby and get off sugar.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
The Food Means Business podcast was produced by Hudson Kitchen. It is recorded at the studio at Kearney Point and mixed and edited by Wild Home Podcasting. Our theme song is by Damian DeSandes, and I'm your host, Janaba Johnson-Jones. Follow Hudson Kitchen on Instagram at The Hudson Kitchen, and to get food business bites right in your inbox, sign up for our newsletter at thehudsonkitchen.com/newsletter. Listen, follow, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get podcasts. Until next time.